Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel, Real Life Dietitian. I'm Olivia Blaylock, and this week we're talking shop. Well, we're talking coffee shop. So coffee is one of my favorite things, and hopefully if it's one of your favorites, you don't have to give it up. Hopefully I can put to bed some of the myths surrounding coffee and help you to enjoy your brew in a little bit more healthy way. So today we're going to be talking about the benefits of coffee. We're going to be talking about how much, so how much is too much. And then we're going to also talk about how to make your coffee a bit healthier. So first off, I want to talk about some new research that's come out in the last couple of years. So a couple of really big articles that I found that were meta-analysis. So what that is an accumulation of lots of other studies, and they put all that data together so we can just kind of get the most broad numbers and figures with some of the largest study populations, and that so we can apply that to the masses. So the first one I found, this was a large observational study that was published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, and actually found it in a Harvard publication. So this study included 450,000 participants that they observed over a 12-year period. So lots of data in there. They found that regular coffee drinkers have decreased risk of cardiovascular disease and heart-related death. Regular coffee consumption for the people in these studies consisted of 4 to 5 cups per day. But they did kind of narrow that down, and they found that the individuals who had the lowest risk were those who drank 2 to 3 cups per day. Okay, so still these people are still drinking multiple cups of coffee a day and having decreased cardiovascular risk and decreased risk of cardiovascular related death. I'm not going to bore you with too much data, but one more study that I found that had very similar results. Again, another really large study. This one was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, and they found that there was an inverse relationship between coffee consumption and mortality, so similar findings as our other study. But this had a much wider range of coffee consumption. So individuals in this study consumed anywhere from 1 cup of coffee up to 8 cups of coffee in a day. So what's behind the benefit? Well, there's some mixed belief into, is it a single component of coffee, or is it, the coffee consumption as a whole? But one of the big key players in this is polyphenols. So polyphenols, they contain a lot of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And those should be kind of 2 trigger words in your head. I see flashing red lights when I hear those words. And it's because those 2, inflammation and oxidative stress, those are big key players in chronic diseases, particularly metabolic disease, as well as neurological diseases. So when you think of things like hyperlipidemia or high cholesterol, any kind of heart disease or vascular disease, type 2 diabetes, neurological conditions. So there's a lot of research on this surrounding things like Parkinson's disease is a big one in this too. Increased coffee consumption associated with decreased risk of these conditions. So inflammation wreaks havoc on our system, especially when it comes to these chronic diseases. And there's really no one particular food group or lack of food group to blame on this, but it just shows how important it is for us to kind of look at our body from a holistic perspective. So the other things I wanted to talk to you about, so we know that's the benefits of coffee and maybe a little bit of why it benefits us from those anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. But how much is too much? Like we said, and these studies kind of range. We had one study up to 8 cups a day. The other study showed that the folks who drank 2 to 3 cups in a day saw the best benefit. So how much is too much? Well, if you look up the RDA, or the recommended dietary allowance for coffee for adults, it's 400 milligrams. There is a limit though on some adults. Nursing or pregnant mothers do need to limit that to 200, so half the amount, because that does cross over the placenta to the infant. and it does also pass through breast milk to the infant as well. So only pregnant and nursing women need to cut that. Also, if you have a contraindication to caffeine, maybe a certain medication or a certain medical condition that's specific to you, your caffeine intake may be limited. Remember, the RDA is a generalized recommendation, but it's 400 milligrams a day. Which is quite a bit. An average cup of coffee, like a home brewed cup of coffee, again, that depends. Some people make their coffee a lot stronger, a lot weaker than others. But an average cup of coffee from your home or from a coffee shop is going to range between about 95 up to 200 milligrams of caffeine per cup. So even a really strong cup of coffee, 2 of those cups a day. And that would be at your 400 milligram limit. Also a limitation, like we said, depending on if you maybe have any medications or health conditions, that might limit you a little bit differently. But another limitation would be your tolerance to that amount of caffeine. So some people can tolerate a much higher amount of caffeine than others. Typically, it's because of what you're used to getting or what you're not used to getting. So we acclimate to the condition that we're exposed to most often. So if you're drinking a lot of coffee, you might not get the same effect as someone who doesn't drink coffee very often, and they go to drink that coffee, they're going to be more sensitized to the effects of caffeine. So use your best judgment, know what you can handle. Don't drink enough coffee to make you jittery and anxious, just enough to, give you that energizing effect from the caffeine that you're looking for. Okay, so again, all of this research that we're talking about, the benefits, is on actual coffee itself, not the added sugars and not the added fats to all the extra goodies that we're putting in our coffee. So this is talking about just plain black coffee. So we like to have our coffee in all different ways, shapes, forms, sizes, and that's when we can start really racking up in things like calories, added fats, and added sugars. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how you can make your coffee healthier. And maybe if you'd like, leave in the comments below what your favorite coffee is, and I'll try to respond back and make a suggestion of how you can make that a little bit healthier. But I wanted to just kind of show you so that you have a reference point of the nutrition information behind some of our favorite coffees. So I Googled what is the most popular coffee order in the United States, and not surprisingly, it was a vanilla latte. So then I found, what was second place, what was third place for, recently, and then looked up the nutrition information on that. So I looked up nutrition facts behind Starbucks coffees, and this is this is not to throw shade on Starbucks. Theirs was just the easiest to find because it's the most popular. So a Starbucks Grande Vanilla Latte, so that's a medium vanilla latte, that has 250 calories, 6 grams of fat, and 37 grams of carbs. So if you're a diabetic, pre-diabetic, or just watching carbs in general, that is a lot of carbohydrates for a drink of that size. Okay, so a second common coffee I found, which I had never heard of this one, but it says it's supposed to be the 2023 spring coffee favorite, is again from Starbucks, the pistachio cold brew. So for my cold brew fans out there, a grande has 250 calories, 13 grams of fat. It's a lot of heavy cream in that cold brew cream, and 33 grams of carbs. So still really high in sugar, but also really high in fat. And then of course, I know this one is a favorite of many people, is a white chocolate mocha. So a Starbucks Grande white chocolate mocha has 420 calories, 17 grams of fat, and 61 grams of carbs. I mean, I don't even know how there's room for coffee left in that. It's a lot of sugar and a lot of fat. So some things you can do. I know some people are just like, I don't want to drink black coffee. I hate it. I understand. But my suggestion to you is, can we just make it that little bit healthier? If we can just slowly scale back some of these things, and who knows, maybe eventually you will learn to like black coffee, but you don't have to. We just have to cut back some of these things. So when you're going to a coffee shop, a lot of times when you're just ordering that item off the menu, the default milk in that coffee is going to be whole milk. And whole milk contains a lot of saturated fat, which is that artery clogging fat. and a lot of calories. So just by asking them to sub that milk out, so if you can't get to your plant-based milks, if you just absolutely hate those, even doing a 2% or a skim milk in place of that whole milk is going to cut significantly down on the saturated fat and the calories in that beverage. Even better if you could do something like an unsweetened almond milk or soy milk. That's going to cut back even more on the saturated fat and the calories. And of course, if like I said, in those cold brews, they're adding that heavy cream in there. I know in the pumpkin spice latte, which is a fall favorite, they are sweetened condensed milk in that. And so that is packed with sugar and with fats as well. So finding a way to cut back or exchange out the milk. The other big thing is going to be, of course, those sweeteners. They're using those coffee syrups to give you those flavors. So coffee houses do have sugar-free syrups. Some have more flavor variety than others. As far as what I know at my local Starbucks, the only sugar-free flavor they have there is vanilla. That's it. So if I want to get something sugar-free, vanilla is my only option. I know one of my favorite sugar-free flavors, and Dunkin' Donuts has it, and then PJ's Coffee, if you're in the South, we have PJ's Coffee. They have both have an unsweetened almond, and that is my favorite flavor of coffee to get from a coffee shop. And then we have another local coffee shop, which I've actually bought my coffee at home from them. It's Coffee 30, and they have I think 3 sugar-free flavors. They have vanilla, I think caramel, and hazelnut. So they have a couple options there too. So choosing that sugar-free syrup instead of the regular is going to cut out a lot of those carbohydrates and sugars, or really all of them. If some people I know do not like the taste of artificial sweeteners, another option that you could do is, if you were just opposed to the sugar-free flavor, is to ask for half the pump. So when they're making your coffee beverage and they're putting caramel or mocha, whatever that is, ask them just to put half the pumps for that coffee flavoring. That's going to cut the sugar in half. So changing your milk and changing up your coffee syrup. And you can go online. There's all kind of tools and things you can play with and adjust your coffee. Like if you're doing a mobile order, or talk with your barista. They're going to help you out and customize your coffee for you. That's what they do. But those are some ways you can really cut back. Same thing applies at home. If you're brewing your coffee, but you're adding whole milk, if you're adding heavy cream, if you're adding, several tablespoons of vanilla coffee flavoring, you're now taking that very low calorie beverage and you're adding lots of saturated fats and sugar. So that's the same thing applies. Instead of using heavy cream, maybe a half and half, or even better would be a skim milk or an almond milk. My favorite thing to put in my coffee it's actually a creamer I buy from the grocery store. It's the Starbucks brand, and it's their zero sugar caramel macchiato flavor. And I like to use that along with my coffee that I purchased from Coffee 30. I love their Costa Rica blend, and I will brew that in the morning and then take that Starbucks caramel macchiato zero sugar creamer and froth that up with a little milk frother to make like a little latte or cappuccino for myself. And I don't use much of that. I've gotten accustomed to less and less of that sugar flavor, and I really enjoy the flavor of my coffee. I could drink it black if I wanted to, but that's my favorite combination right there. And my coffee, 1 cup comes out to be 20 calories, 1.5 grams of fat, and 1 gram of carb per cup. And I typically have 2 to 3 cups of that coffee in a day. So I fall in line with the study guidelines of the people who get the biggest benefit. So we'll see. So some things that you can make your coffee healthier with. And again, it doesn't have to go from, your coffee being more of a coffee milk to a black coffee. Just a gradual reduction in that can be super beneficial, especially if you're drinking that really sugary coffee multiple times a day. If you're drinking 2 of those Starbucks white chocolate mochas, you're knocking on 1,000 calories a day from those 2 coffee drinks. So we can cut back a little bit and save some there. Another really important factor to consider in all of this, we're talking about coffee, and we're using and reaching for that coffee because of, one, maybe the taste, but the other thing is the effects of the caffeine that we're getting from that coffee. It's giving us that energy. It sometimes may just be out of habit too, or a social thing. You know, we drink coffee when someone's coming over or when we're having a meeting or something like that. But what you want to make sure is that you are not relying on that caffeine intake to mask an underlying cause of fatigue. So if you found that, gosh, I'm having to do more coffee and I'm needing that, really need to assess, you know, this fatigue that I'm experiencing, where is that coming from? How do I need to address that? Is it related to poor nutrition, lack of vitamins and minerals from healthy whole foods in our diet? Of course, maybe it's lack of sleep. Even if you're getting enough sleep though, it can be poor quality sleep. If you know that you're getting a full 8 hours, but you still feel very unrested, maybe, you know, you could ask your partner if they notice if you seem restless in the bed at night or if you snore. Maybe ask your healthcare provider to a referral to have a sleep study done so that those things can be diagnosed. Anxiety, keeping you awake at night, keeping you from, you know, falling asleep or staying asleep, making sure that we're taking care of our mental health, as well as our physical health. Maybe our brain is really tired from the workload of the day, but our body is not tired and is therefore restless. And so we may not be getting good quality rest from that. So making sure that we're not using coffee to mask or ignore that fatigue that we're having. Make sure we're checking in on that as well. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned about the benefits of coffee, maybe how much you can have. I hope that you learned some ways to make your coffee a little bit healthier. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you back on the channel soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment to me what your favorite coffee is. Also leave some comments maybe on some suggestions for future topics in the show. Thanks so much for watching.